My name's David Flatman. I used to be, many moons ago, a rugby player, a professional rugby player. And since then I've gone on to do other stuff, including commentating on rugby matches and analysing rugby matches, and I host corporate events and I work with various brands. I write columns. I've written a book, oddly. I don't think it was very good, but I wrote it. So I kind of do lots of different stuff, primarily a semi-exhausted dad who's not quite as tired as he says he is, or as busy as he says he is. But I, try and pull my weight. We bought a Georgian townhouse in central Bath, and I've lived in Bath for 20 years or thereabouts, and I signed to a contract to play rugby for Bath and just never left, and it's one of those places that lots of people don't want to leave. When we bought the house, we had various sort of builder mates and contacts come round, and we were told a couple of times, this house is knackered, you need to completely rewire it, you need to completely replumb it. And I remember thinking, how come this really nice lady that sold us this house has lived here perfectly happily with no wiring and no plumbing? So I got some other people in and they did a few tests and said the wiring's fine, the plumbing's fine, you do not need to spend £10 million, whatever it is, doing that. So that was a big relief. We started out with what we thought were relatively modest ideas for a renovation. We wanted to change the kitchen, we wanted to decorate the whole place. We knew pretty quickly, once winter came, that we needed to do something with the windows. We weren't allowed to replace them, so we renovated all of our windows, and the jobs kind of built up to the point where we thought, sod it, should we just do everything? Every square inch of the house was addressed. Doesn't mean the whole place was knackered, but every square inch was, from every floorboard, every skirting board, every wall, every ceiling, every light switch socket. It's where, we get the house and we start thinking about stuff that it doesn't have, and it's a Georgian house, so it doesn't have many lights, and it hasn't had the whole downlighter treatment, which we haven't done either, but it had hardly any power sockets. It had really rudimentary light switches, some of which didn't work, and one light per room, and we wanted to kind of change that a little bit. Basically, every time we've had the option to keep something original and imperfect, or take it out and put in something that looks exactly the same but is new, we've opted to keep it original. So, for example, we've got shutters on every window in the house, and not one of them opens and shuts as a modern one would, in that there's always a slight gap here or there because they're 200 odd years old, and we like that. And there's the odd tiny bit of light in the morning coming through the bedroom. If you close the shutters downstairs and you're watching TV, you can just see the headlights of cars popping by outside, but we like that. For example, there are sort of door latch mechanisms. There are 3 or 4 in the house that are original, so they're over 200 years old, and they don't work properly, but we have left them. And all of the others were modern, they were replaced, they were a bit knackered, the doors weren't great, and we've replaced all of those with lovely Corston hardware, which works beautifully. So they're the doors that actually work, but where there was an option of a beautiful old mechanism, if we couldn't get a Corston handle, which we loved, into it, which we did on a couple, we've just left it, not quite closing properly, and we don't mind that, because it mixes modernity with, contemporary convenience and style and real high quality with original crumbly old Georgian stuff. There are some flashy lights here or there, there's beautiful switches, there's beautiful plug sockets with, extra little, sort of the extra sockets to charge all your gear and all your iPads and your phones and all your headphones and that kind of stuff. So we've got modern touches that make real sense. And we've got, I never know what they're called, I think they're called 3 gangs or 5 gangs or something, but you walk into a room and press a switch and all your lamps come on at the same time, like a hotel. I always call them hotel lamp switches. We got those in a couple of rooms because it's a modern convenience that we afforded ourselves. I chose Corston because I saw them on Instagram. That's it. I saw someone on Instagram saying I've got these Corston plug sockets, and that was it. The antique brass with the black sort of plug inserts, and I was like, yep, done. And actually, I did Google it and I found them, and I found another brand. I won't name them, but I've forgotten anyway. And I actually bought a plug socket from both online, one of each, the same product. And then I asked a couple of mates who are in the trade, and they said that one brand was good, which was Corston, and they said, don't touch the other ones. You'll see why when you get them out of the box. And it's that kind of weight thing. I know that plug sockets don't have to be heavy. They're not there to be heavy, but it was like, one felt like it was made of tin or plastic, and the other one felt like it was made of a lump of metal. Corston products, for me, it's like when you get the door handles, you probably call them something else. You get the door handles or the cupboard handles, whatever, you get them out and they're heavy. They weigh quite a lot. You know, they're there. And of course, you're not going to be walking around holding them. They're going to be screwed into a door. But there is a lot of quality there. And what I don't like the idea of, just like with something like cars, is having a car that I couldn't possibly drive in case it got wet or chipped. I want something that I can use properly and I can whack it around for the next 10 or 20 years and I feel confident it's going to remain in good nick, and it might even look better in 10 years when it's been beaten up a little bit. So the quality is what I like, and I wanted to buy good quality items once, and I didn't want to replace them in 5 years or 10 years. I want to be here for a very long time. There's a sort of a sense of responsibility for the next people that buy it. Yeah, if we ever sell it in 100 years, we want to make as much money as we can and all that, but also you want people to arrive and say these people did things properly, and Corston is doing things properly. We basically went everywhere antique brass. I did actually go on, I think it was Instagram, and I put this little poll out and said, do it antique brass, basically antique or shiny, gloss, and pretty much everyone said go antique. I think in an old house it works better. I think also there are, lots of kids and there's animals, also there's lots of people in this house. So if you have something gloss and immaculate, it very quickly won't be immaculate. And I think when you make these decisions, it's like sofas, it's all that sort of stuff. It's like, well, what's going to look best when it's been beaten up a little bit? Because everything's getting beaten up, So we had this lovely kitchen done and it's all perfect. And within a week, their stools have been whacked into it and there's paint getting chipped off. And I just think you've just got to not worry about it. So we went antique brass because it looks wicked and it looks class when it's cleaned, and it looks class when it's covered in fingerprints and olive oil and yogurt and dirt. In terms of recommending Corston, you'd recommend it to anyone really. So my parents live in an ancient house, it's an old sort of converted ancient barn, and they will be using Corston in their house when they do it all up for everything because they've been here and seen it and love it. I've got a friend in Bath who is selling her beautiful large period home and probably moving into what you'd call a new build, and she will do it all up, they will do it all up, and she will very likely use Corston products. She could very well use them in there and they would look perfect. So of course antique brass is what we've gone for, but there's the bronze finish which is much darker, and there is a finish probably to suit any house you want. When there's plugs and light switches and door handles that are actually really high quality and they've been really well thought about and they're properly considered additions, I think that elevates the whole place, no matter if it's Georgian or Victorian or 2 years old. We use that stuff all the time. We use it all the time. This is not a hidden expense. They're the ones that kill you on these houses, but this is a visible expense. And I haven't bought it to show off to my mates that I've got nice light switches that feel nice when you use them. It's for me because I live it and I like them.